This is like a perfectly executed romance. Like, girl, why would you do that? Sabotage. You have 5 pages to get back together or I'm losing it. I would give this a 5 million stars if I could. Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Indigo and it's nice to meet you. And this is my end of the year Q4 reading wrap up. So in this video, I'm going to discuss all the books I read in October, November, and December, the last quarter of the year. I read a whopping total of 5 3/4 books because I am shamelessly a slow reader. But I still love reading, still want to talk about books. So the first book I read was Redwood Court by DeLana Dameron. The story follows Micah as she comes of age in the 1990s. She is interviewing several relatives for a school project and we learn about their family history, but she also talks about, of course, coming of age and girlhood, and it's a very, very charming story. There were so many moments that resonated with me as a little black girl who grew up in suburbia in the South myself. And it's called Redwood Court because her grandmother Louise, who goes by Weesey, bought a house on Redwood Court in Columbia, South Carolina. She spends a lot of her time there. I love the concept of asking your elders for stories, you know, as long as they are comfortable. There were times where I was like, this is so beautiful, and I'm just so glad that this author is having this conversation. Like, she talks about Micah's grandfather, and he is a vet, and he was in the war in Korea. So he saw a lot of things you cannot unsee that are affecting him in his old age. And I mean, of course, that's like really heavy to read, but it's so necessary. So many of our elders never got to unpack their trauma or learn how to cope. But I also really love the way Micah navigates us through her experience of girlhood. I gave this a 4-star rating. I did like the story, but there were a lot of times where I was zoning out. But other than that, I think the author did exactly what she wanted to do. The next book I read in October is Indigo by Beverly Jenkins. Now, yes, that is my name. Because you know how on TikTok, there's always a new trend of like search your name and insert whatever. Yeah, so I just decided to look up my name on Goodreads. And I scrolled for a bit because, you know, I have standards. And when I saw this African-American historical romance, I was immediately intrigued because y'all know me and African-American historical fiction go together real bad. I talked about this book so much in my replacing my screen time with the reading video. This book is a 1,000,000 out of 10. This book is about Hester, who is a conductor on the Underground Railroad. She lives in Michigan, but she was born into slavery. Part of the labor they did was making indigo dye, and that permanently dyed her hands indigo. She meets Galeno, also known as the Black Daniel. That's her love interest. And he gives her the nickname Indigo because her hands are indigo. This is like a perfectly executed romance. The yearning, the pace, everything. But then like the story aside from that is so riveting. I did not want to put it down. I didn't want it to end. It is a page turner. If you read this book, you will not be disappointed. Of course, it does talk about slavery, but it's not just trauma. We get to know Hester and her development and her discovering herself. She's having these new experiences. She finds personal freedom. Like, she's been freed legally, but she finds like spiritual freedom. She tends to be more practical and cautious, which you have to be as a conductor on the Underground Railroad. You're literally hiding refugees behind like false walls in your house. So Galeno, because of his background, which I don't want to spoil too much about, but you know, he is a lot more free with the way he lives. So he like introduces her to like a new side of life. And she's like, if there's anything I need more of in my life, it's fun. And I have never related more. I, of course, gave this a 5-star rating. I would give this a 5 million stars if I could. That is how much I enjoyed this story. I'm so glad that it just randomly occurred to me to search my name. Otherwise, I would never have found it. I was divinely led to that book. Like, I'm telling you. The next book I read in October is These Heathens by McKenzie. I own this book. It's not from the library. And this is another African-American historical fiction, very fast-paced, and it takes place in 1960 in rural Georgia. So when I saw that, I was like, okay, I'm from Georgia. I'm intrigued. Doris is pregnant and she wants to become no longer pregnant. So she confides in her favorite teacher from the high school she used to attend. She has dropped out of school to help take care of the home because her mother's sick. She has 2 younger brothers. You know, their dad works. A very common experience for young girls growing up in the rural South, especially, you know, back then. My grandmother has described having a similar experience of having to do more labor than a child should have to. But that was so normal back then. Anyway, I don't want to go off on a tangent. So her teacher has some contacts and someone in the city of Atlanta agrees to help her. So they venture to Atlanta, and then that's where she starts getting into all kinds of situations. I think something that is very brilliant about this book is that we never, okay, spoiler alert, low-key. If you don't want me to spoil anything, just skip this part. We never find out how Doris got pregnant. All we know is she's pregnant and she doesn't want to be pregnant anymore. This conversation is very important. We don't need to know how someone became pregnant. The only thing that matters is whether or not they want to end the pregnancy. It's your body, it's your choice. Regardless of how you got pregnant, you deserve that choice. That is your right. The title, These Heathens, is relevant because Doris is from a very religious family. Her trip to Atlanta is the first time she is exposed to alternative lifestyles. I say alternative because back then it was alternative. Today is not alternative. It's just life. It's just normal, right? Queerness, other religions, people who are not religious at all. She starts to question her religion. I also really enjoyed learning about the organizations of Black college students in Atlanta who protested against segregation. She attends one of their meetings and they're practicing a sit-in. And in the simulation, they're trying to provoke each other just to, you know, build their endurance so they don't break during an actual sit-in. Doris does make me mad at times because she just be wilding like, girl, why would you do that? Like, girl, why would you do that? It's like she just does not think. And I know I'm not the only one who feels this way. Some of the stuff she does in this book, I'm like, girl, I can't even defend you. What are you doing? There's parties, there's tension, there's celebrities, famous civil rights leaders. It's also really funny. I felt like part of what I've been experiencing was reflected to me in this book because Doris wants to leave her hometown and travel, but she doesn't know how. Her teacher tells her that she's on the right track because part of changing your life is believing that it is possible to begin with. And if you've been, you know, watching my content, I am into manifestation and stuff, so very in alignment. Everybody in this story basically just makes like questionable decisions, but the way McKenzie explains like why people do the things they do, whether it's irritating or frustrating, I just really appreciate the way she unpacks it. I gave this book 5 stars. I think it deserves 5 stars, and I think more people should read it. So now, I started this book in October and finished it in November. I finally read The Vanishing Half by Brit, Bennett. I put this on my TBR in 2020 and I finally picked it up. I walked past it at the library. I couldn't find anything else to read. I said, okay, I'm getting it. The concept itself is so strong. 2 twins. One of them decides to live their life as a colored woman and the other one decides to pass for white. That's super strong. First and foremost, I do want to say I see what people are talking about with the whole back and forth in time issue, because we'll be following a character in 1968 and then without transition or notice, now we're just like way back in the past, but like it's not like obvious, and it's like honestly confusing because it's like, wait, what am I reading? Like, how do we get here? Whole time the character is having a flashback. I did really enjoy the way the story unfolded. I'm glad I read it. Is it my favorite thing I've ever read? Not really. I do understand how it became so popular. It is a really interesting, riveting story. There were times I just feel like the author hit it right on the head when she was talking about how Stella, who was the one who chose to pass for white, was feeling isolated, longing for sisterhood. And then when she finally has Black neighbors, she avoids them because she's afraid that they will clock that she is colored. I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars because it's great. It does deserve praise. So the next book I read in November is Zeal by Morgan Jerkins. This story is about two star-crossed lovers, that's what it said in the inside cover, I remember that, who are separated after the Civil War. It honestly reminds me of the Vanishing half, the way that they find each other later in time. I don't want to spoil it. Just don't take find each other literally. So we have like multiple time periods, multiple perspectives. The lovers in question, Tirzah Ambrose and Harrison Ambrose, they have the same last name because they had the same master. They were born into slavery. They are from Natchez, Mississippi, but Harrison leaves to fight for the Union in the Civil War. But when he returns to Natchez after the war, Tirzah is gone. She has relocated to Shreveport, Louisiana. Harrison tries to find her, but sabotage, and then they end up starting their own separate lives. I will say this book did prompt me to make a video about not being able to read sad books anymore because it is very, very trauma heavy, very sad. It goes from Jim Crow to COVID, following two people who were born into slavery to following a doctor and his fiance during COVID. And I mean, it's accurate for the time period. This was literally post-Civil War, the beginning of Jim Crow. Crazy, unspeakable times, unspeakable acts, unspeakable crimes. The book is so well researched and written, and you can tell so much time and effort went into it. It's a very, very riveting, very moving story. It is a great history lesson, but I still gave it 5 stars because all the effort that went into it objectively is great. It did affect my mood, but like other than that, it's great. So that's all the books I finished reading. I am currently reading Sweet Heat by Bolu, Babalola. I'm really enjoying this. I think it's a nice break from African American historical fiction, from the trauma. I'm not gonna lie, she's in her sad girl post breakup. It's not rainbows and butterflies. Okay, so I saw that this was part of a series before I checked it out, but I didn't know it was like a series. Like the first book is about the same characters and this is following up series, but it can be read as a standalone. Honestly, I don't feel like I'm missing anything by reading it as a standalone. Some people are complaining that the chapters are too long and that there's like too much of her internal monologue, which I can't say I disagree with that, because somebody will like ask her a question and then it'll be like a page and a half of like spiral internal monologue before the question is answered, and it's like, I don't even remember what the question was. It'll be like a simple question too. But it's like, on one hand, I appreciate that because I too am neurotic. I guess for like reading comprehension purposes, it's not really serving me or readers. But I'm at the point where it's like, bro, if y'all don't get, you have 5 pages to get back together or I'm losing it. I'm like 3/4 of the way through, like at this point. That concludes my Q4 end of the year reading wrap up. Let me know if any of these books stood out to you, or if you've read them. Let me know what you thought of them. I would love to know what y'all think. If you have any recommendations for me, drop them in the comments, please. Happy New Year. Please give this video a like. That lets the algorithm know it should show this video to more people. I would greatly appreciate that. I will see you in the next video.